What's up, everybody? D Fish here. David JP Fisher, for those of you who we haven't met yet, but everybody calls me D Fish. Feel free to do so. Welcome to another small business selling skill session here on our LinkedIn live stream. I hope that if you're with us live, you're having a fantastic day. And if you are watching this on recording on our YouTube channel, that you're having a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is. Looking forward to diving into today's topic, one that I know is important to a lot of people when they're in a sales conversation. That is sales collateral, specifically the sales deck or the sales slideshow. And I think this is really important for small business owners because this is a topic that gets a lot of attention in the sales world among sales professionals. But when you're a small business owner, it's just one more thing that you're like, I should really get to that. And you just don't have a lot of time to spend on it. So we're going to talk today about how to effectively use your sales collateral when you're having a conversation with someone. And by the way, where is everybody at today? Do me a favor, if you can, down in the comment section below, tell me what city, state, zip code, part of the country, part of the world that you're joining us from. Always like to know where everybody's at, so I don't feel like I'm just talking all by myself and to myself in my home office into the camera here. So go ahead and throw those down there. So let's dive in. We don't have a lot of time here, so let's talk about sales collateral. Now, the first thing you have to remember, and I say this because most people forget this, is that sales collateral. So by that, I mean, obviously a sales PowerPoint or slide deck or a brochure or a one-pager or whatever it is, whatever physical thing you want to share, even if it's, what you're sharing on a Zoom call, so a website or video, whatever it is. Always understand that when we talk about sales collateral, the important word there is collateral. It is adjacent to, it is not the main driver of a sales conversation. And this is the mistake that people make because they think, oh, this is what my job in this conversation is, just to present the material, and the material is going to do the work. And that's just not the case. What you want to do is look at having all of these tools as just that, tools to help you in the conversation. Your interaction with that prospect is the main event. It's the most important thing. Everything else that you're bringing in is simply supporting or adding credibility or explaining a point that you're making in your conversation. So that's the most important thing to remember, because I've seen sometimes people get so worked up about, hey, I want to have a really good brochure, or we have a good website that I can now show to my prospects, or this quick video that explains our services, or of course the slide deck, and that's going to do all the work. You have to do the work and simply bring in these different tools to help support that message. So that's the first thing that you have to keep in mind. Now, the second question will be, well, what is good sales material to have with me? Now, this obviously is a little different right now because of the social distancing, self-isolation. A lot of times we aren't physically there with somebody. We're just talking to them over Zoom. So that kind of cuts down on what we can use. Now, back in the day, before we were in self-isolation, when we could talk one-to-one and face-to-face with somebody, there's a lot of tools. I actually got my start selling Cutco cutlery, and so I was in people's houses selling knives, and the collateral was the product. We also had like a little brochure, like a 3-ring binder we could flip through, and that was great to be able to show pictures or graphs and stuff like that. But we can't do that. We can really just use the online world right now when we're conveying information. So here's what I'm going to say to you. Think about the conversations that you're having with your prospects and kind of outline it, map out the main parts of your conversation. And from there, the first thing I would do is create a slide deck. But again, it's very different than making a slide deck and then going, this is how my conversation is going to go with a prospect. So for example, if you are going to start out and maybe have some one-on-one conversation with somebody, and then what you want to do is to go into discovery and ask them about the challenges that they're facing in their business. The first couple slides should reflect that you are going to be diving in. So you might actually have a slide that highlights a few of the questions you're going to ask, or maybe some of the statistics that are pertinent to the challenges that your prospect is facing. Maybe you've done some research about the industry and go, hey, people in your role are, facing these 5 main problems, right? That can be really powerful when you ask them what their challenges are and they tell you, and then you show them the next slide and it's everything they just said. You're like, yeah, you're kind of right in line with what everybody else is saying as far as their challenges. Right? So it could be that. It could then be, if you're going to talk about your background or your company and what you do, you might have a slide or two that shares about your company's background, your services, right? If you're going to do some value building, right, you might even have a slide with a testimonial in there and say, hey, this is what some of our past clients have said with us. And this part, really, when you talk about the value building, again, you don't lead with the deck. I've seen full-time salespeople do this, where they're just like putting a slide up there and then reading it off. Here's all the things that we're good at. People don't care, and it's boring. Instead of, you're having a conversation, you're like, oh, hey, by the way, I mentioned those 3 things that we do really well. Here's a slide that has some awards that we've won that back up that claim. And when you, and I'm kind of just roughly sketching this out. My point being, you've got to make this your own, but then maybe you're going to talk about the different services that you provide or the packages or products you have. Having a slide or 2 with that information is great, and really clearly delineating it. I mean, this is really where kind of design comes in handy. If you can make a nice chart or graph, just make it easy to digest, make it easy for somebody to read. I remember working with clients, and we were developing their sales process and their sales deck. And one of the things we did is made sure at the very end, when we were going over the packages, it was very clear. Here's what the package contained. Here was the price. By the way, here's the discount that they would get. And so they could look in a heartbeat and go, boom, I know exactly, how this is going to work going forward. So have that. Even, for example, if you know that there's a couple of common objections, have a slide or 2 that has some information that helps you answer those objections. You can write at the end of the slide deck, have a slide that says next steps, or like what's going to happen next. Are you going to write a proposal? Do they have to go and get some information and send that to you? Whatever it might be. And so when you're using this slide deck, putting it together, you've actually put it together where it's following your conversation. And then I think the most important thing is to still walk into that conversation with a prospect and go, and not feel you have to go through every page. Like, skipping around is totally fine. In fact, if you're skipping around a bit, that means you're having an organic conversation. You're answering their questions. They're bringing up issues. You're talking about those issues, and you're able to go back and forth with them. That's actually when it gets good, because that means they're in. And if they're on slide 6 and they ask you a question, and you know that you talk about that in slide 10, don't be like, oh, I still got to show them 7, 8, and 9. Skip to 10. That's okay, right? As I said, it's simply a tool. And this, by the way, is even if you're, for example, on a Zoom call with somebody and they ask you a question that can be answered with some of the web content you have or an infographic you created. Go to that, say, hey, let me show you, because then you'll be able to grasp what I'm trying to share here, whatever it is. But through all of this, again, the conversation comes first, the slide deck comes next. And in fact, all of the collateral. What you almost want to think about is, what are the tools that I'm going to need in this conversation? And I want to make sure I bring those tools with me. By the way, if you don't have all the tools you need, this is some of the sales prep that can be really handy. Either you do that yourself, hire a consultant like me, or just, even if you have all the material but it looks bad, go get a graphic designer, help you put it together. Because you want to be able to walk in knowing you've got a full toolbox. And here's an analogy. If you're going to be a good plumber, you have to have all of the tools to go and fix that sink. You might not know exactly what you're going to get into there, so you have all the different sizes, all the different ratchets, everything. You walk in, you don't use them all. You go, oh, this is the problem, I'm going to use this tool, or I need this size wrench, okay, I'm going to use that size. But you have it all available to you. And that's what I'm going to really encourage you to do, is continue to build out your sales toolbox, but then know that you are still in charge. And hey, if you walk in with all of this great collateral and the conversation just goes really well and you never have to use any of it, that's all right. It's there to serve a purpose, not to be the end all be all. So those are some ways of, again, not looking at the specific slides you must or must not have in a sales deck, because they're different. They vary depending on your industry. They vary depending on kind of, again, what the challenges that your prospects are facing, what objections come up, your own style. Whether you're a startup company or you've been around for 100 years, there's all these differences. And heck, you can reach out to me afterwards. Happy to give you some ideas of what makes a good sales deck. You can do a quick Google search. There's a lot of material out there. But where it's really important is how you use that tool, okay? So there you go. I hope that helps you a little bit today. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to answer questions you have. I'd also encourage you to take a look at our Selling Launchpad group. That's kind of, I gotta get a little plug in here at the end of every LinkedIn live stream, because this is really a great group where we help people improve their business development skills, networking, sales, marketing for small business owners, especially those who are running a solo business or maybe just have 1 or 2 employees and they've got to do a lot of this heavy lifting themselves. We cover things like how to craft a great sales deck, and we get feedback from everybody, so it's pretty powerful. But check that out. I've put the link down below, sellinglaunchpad.com. And I'll be back here tomorrow at noon with another small business selling skill tidbit. And then in October, we're going to take a small break from the small business selling and talk about how financial service professionals can actually build their sales skills and really position themselves as what I call a sales Sherpa. But again, don't let anybody else know. But if it's good, if you're selling any service, whether it's financial services or not, these skills we'll talk about will be applicable. So I hope that you join us, and also tell all of your friends as well. So everybody have a fantastic day. We'll talk soon. Bye.